Welcome here from Acupuncture Health Services down in Shrewsbury. In honor about the Bayshore, we are doing a special live. If you don't know, we are sponsoring the Comeback of the Night, Recovery of the Night. So the person with the best recovery and escape at the event this Saturday at 4:30 will receive a free laser acupuncture treatment with us. But for those of you wondering why we're doing that and why we're running this promotion for Grapplers, in case you don't know, President's Day from last Monday up till March 1st, you get a free complimentary treatment. And people are wondering why, and people might not know, but Dr. Bays here is actually a grappling enthusiast, as am myself. So want to introduce people to that fact. They might not know that. So Dr. Bays, tell the folks about your experience with that.
I like the title enthusiast because I'm no longer grappling, but I have grappled in the past. So my history was I wrestled in high school.
What weight?
158 at the time. Yep.
Tough weight.
158, yes, a lot of competition. But I'm enthused with just technique, right? Like learning takedowns, ground control, that's all the fun stuff. Resilience, endurance, that's a big piece of the puzzle that people don't really focus on. But then did some standing martial arts and then met a friend in acupuncture school, and we met Phil Dunlap, who was teaching the grappling system with the Bondo fighting system.
Yeah, tell people about that.
That was a trip. Well, my friend Ken attended his seminar, and I had seen on his back he had these almost like silver dollar sized bruises, like linearly parallel on his back. And I looked at it, I was like, I need to know how to do that. And then we started splitting a private lesson. I would be driving an hour up to Mawa and training with Phil. And what I would say about that, if everybody had to say like Bondo versus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappling style, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like Jiu-Jitsu, is a soft and flowing style, whereas Bondo is a very direct and a lot of pressure on your opponent, like keeping the weight on, keeping the pain on, and forcing the patient, the opponent to give you an armbar, give you a leg lock. But
we're not armbarring the patients.
No, far from it. But that's my experience with grappling. I would love to do it more, but that's.
You said there was something in that system with headbutts on the ground or something.
Yeah, I mean, we used to use our head and face to so if you know, I don't know if you've seen the technique where you like kind of lean on the hand and slap into the elbow.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff, but also like keeping your head on your opponent, and like one of the takedowns was like just grabbing the back of the head and mashing the nose.
Right.
So if you're in mount or if you're trying to get out of guard, one of the techniques was to kind of lift the opponent's back up off, use their weight and your head in their face to let go of the guard. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining that, but that was the technique of just like constant pressure on the opponent to give you an arm, to give you stuff like that.
So kind of like catch wrestling, right? Like grinding like elbows and things away to kind of encourage the guy to give you, rather than like waiting, using technique and leverage like you see in Jiu-Jitsu.
Correct.
Oh, okay, I see.
I've never done, full disclosure, I haven't done BJJ, but that was just like how it seems.
Right. But from what I've said and like what I've seen, like working with you, and when Joe's here, like you do have like a respect for it, right?
Of course.
You see grappling is grappling.
I know. Well, you said blue belt, right? Like a blue belt is somebody who can, defend themselves.
Yeah, against an untrained opponent who's larger than them.
So unofficially, I probably have, just with wrestling and all the grappling that I've done, I could definitely defend myself from an untrained grappling opponent.
Yeah, I believe it was Russ who told me, who we had to shout out Russ from Move Jiu-Jitsu, who's in here. He was telling me that he considers all wrestlers like blue belts, like collegiate wrestlers like blue belts, like by happenstance. Like they have the movement. Some of them probably blue belts, if we're honest.
Sure,
they have the movement. They just have to understand it's the mission game. So I think that's a fair statement. I think most people won't accuse you of stolen valor for that. But let me ask you a question now. Now that you're on the other side, you say you don't do it as much, but you've seen it, like you've treated me.
Well, not as much at all.
Yeah.
I haven't done grappling a lot.
Right. But I know you've still involved, like you treated me, you've treated some of the guys here. So like, how have you dealt with like some like the common injuries? Like you've trained, you know the grind, you know that your knees are going to hurt, the shoulders are going to hurt.
Absolutely.
So like you could probably think back to the kind of injuries you've had over the years and think like, oh, I've seen those injuries in acupuncturists. So you know the kind of help you can give.
Specifically with Jiu-Jitsu, what I've seen is a lot of shoulder stuff, like torquing, twisting. If you make the joint do something it's not supposed to, the muscles will react and go into spasm. So all you guys rolling with shoulder, from all that shoulder stuff and all the arm bars, key locks, Kimuras, Americanas, blah, 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 when you move the joint out away from the socket, the muscles, it's their natural inclination to bring the joint back, and sometimes nobody tells the muscles to stop doing that. So when you have that residual tightness pain, 3 to 8, dull ache, constant pain, sharp, you have a tear, dull ache, you have a muscle, and a combination of both, acupuncture comes in and releases that musculature and kind of tones and tells the muscle to stop firing. And then if we had to say, I'm more of like, my jiu-jitsu is the acupuncture. Like my competition or my my fight or challenge is against your muscles, right? Somebody said to me, I'm like a diseased ninja. So my blue belt or my red belt is in getting the conflict is in the musculature of the client or the patient who's getting their arm torqued all day long. Then if you go out there and torque it again, guess what's going to happen? That's where recovery comes in. It can keep you on the mat longer if you just stick to it.
Absolutely. And
I think that's what we're trying to get at, right?
Exactly. And that's what I felt, because I actually haven't run this by you, but I've had this kind of like theory that I've been working on, like nursing on, right? Because, you know, I am a professor, so I have to kind of move the art forward, right? And one thing I've been realizing is it's not like I feel most people would expect. It's not like the crazy athletic explosive movement or the heel hook that somebody puts on too long, even though those could cause those freak injuries, right? We know them, they stay in our memory. But what I feel like is actually the most dangerous, the most pernicious thing is the drilling. It's doing the armbar 10 times. And sure, you're tapping, but you're tapping a little bit past your normal range of motion. You do that 10 times because your instructor told you to do that. That's going to cause it. That's going to weaken the joint for then.
The more repetitive stress of the injury. You don't have to do anything insidious or strenuous. You just have to do it enough over time. So hours and hours of drilling over the course of months and months and months. Yeah, those muscles are going to get tired. You don't have to injure the muscle. The muscle can still get tired of just doing an armbar over. It's overuse.
Exactly.
Right. Ergonomics. So you know.
So as a result, the implication is like it's actually in the moments where people can feel that they're most safe, right? When they're drilling, you're just doing the armbar at 20%, 30%, but you're doing it 30 times.
Right.
And most people don't equate that with the injury and the danger, but that to me is what acupuncture is needed more for than I busted my knee doing a heel hook. At that point, go see a surgeon, right? We're for the, okay, I've been doing this like repetitive injury. It doesn't feel like there's a problem, but you won't know there's a problem until you go to post on it, and then you have the explosive injury. So, can you talk to about like that? Like,
well, you don't have to do jiu-jitsu. You can just do it at the gym.
Right.
If you're like working the arm all day long, swinging a hammer, and then you go lift, do preacher curls and concentration curls, you're going to have a muscular strain. You're going to have a overuse injury. But what happens is the muscle is under constant sort of like tension, and it gets, it rebels on you. I always sort of use the analogy that muscles are like insulin children, right? They get whiny, they get tired, they start to whine and scream and yell, and that's that constant tension, tightness. So getting in there and getting the blood flow, course correction, you're the teacher, you set the lesson plan, the patient is the parent, they have to stay on top of it and reinforce, because the kid's not going to get it. But in the course of like therapy, staying on top of it will get better results in 1-2 visits. Some muscles are sharper than others. They come in line, but it's staying on top of it for the best results.
Right. And for those of the people watching who are not familiar with the mechanism, obviously we can explain to them the entire way that acupuncture works, and I'm sure some of them might have heard about Qi, and they might not know that you have a completely different modeling for that.
Yeah.
So can you somebody who just
episode 1.
Yeah.
Go watch episode 1 on the channel.
But if you have to give them a small blurb, like how is sticking this needle or sticking a laser in this point going to help me do jiu-jitsu longer? What's the quick
So anyway, we've said this over and over again, to improve the function of an organ, you have to increase circulation. So whether it's a muscle, uterus, lower back, you have to increase circulation. One, because the mechanism, right? You
Mhm.
cut yourself, and what happens? The body heals itself.
Right.
Why couldn't we apply that to an overused muscle from jiu-jitsu?
Mhm.
And the second one, I think you know that we're trying to which I'm still trying to get down, and you're trying to figure out the local twitch response, the deactivating of the motor implants, like telling the muscle to stop firing is an actual high-level manual skill. That's the difference between manual acupuncture and electric acupuncture. I can hook you up to an e-stim and make you feel better, but it's not fixing the problem. The problem is like the 20 years in of knowing the muscle, knowing where the spot is before you treat it, the intuition of actually doing it. It's the experience. So if anybody's a martial artist and everybody's doing jiu-jitsu or shooting an apple off somebody's head, it's about the constant application. It's the experience. It's the Zen aspect to walk in and know, after 20 years, I've treated a jiu-jitsu shoulder. I know what that injury is, and getting to it right off the bat, and over 20 years getting better at it. So if you're better at getting an arm bar, I'm better at finding that overused muscle anterior posterior deltoid.
So why should people come to do acupuncture, say, instead of doing a therapy gun or doing ice baths, or biohacking?
You can do whatever you want.
Right.
The point is having 20 years of experience, right? And getting the job done right with a high-level practitioner, right? It's like why you won't go join Tiger Schulman and go work with Joe.
Right.
Joe's not Tiger Schulman. Joe knows what he's doing when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So the reason why you're going to come and do acupuncture with us is because we know how to treat this injury. We've seen it a trillion times. And it's experience. That's what it is. Put the time in.
No, absolutely. So another thing people might not know about you is your enthusiasm for a certain Mr. Roosevelt, which is kind of what blossomed this
Freddie or Teddy?
Yes. It was a little bit of a speaking gaffe earlier. I kept calling him
Teddy
Freddie.
Roosevelt, if you haven't known, if you haven't guessed by the mustache, is a big influence on my life, because I think he was like the best president. I don't have to tell you, he's a man of the people, boss, police commissioner of New York, governor of New York. He did it all. He conquered the West. He invaded, what was it, Cuba, San Juan Hill? With it, I mean, the Rough Riders themselves, like just picture like 30, 40 Teddys, like, indigenous peoples, cowboys, boxers, rather like the best of the best. The Dirty Dozen, right, of America went down and just like took over Cuba. If you want to apply that model, that's like somebody amazing. All the conservation he did. I think he shot every animal in the Natural History Museum and contributed it to it. Like because it's not an animal cruelty thing. He was doing it in the name of like learning and science. But that bull elephant, I think he took down, right? So a man of action.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he is kind of that strange amalgamation of intellectual and physical prowess, right? Which, ironically, you see in a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes, right? They have that kind of weird, quasi-autistic, we like to figure things out, but we're also
outside of the jiu-jitsu realm, the one thing we could take away from Teddy Roosevelt is to learn and build resilience.
Yes.
Right? What do you say? Complaining about your arm, jiu-jitsu guys, right? And not doing anything about it. I think Teddy said is whining.
Yeah.
Right? Complaining without action is whining.
Yes.
That's a big takeaway. Quote that. I don't know. Put it on your stoic Instagram reels, but that's the words to live by.
And I think there's a stigma because when we're growing up, it's like your dad tells you shut up, stop whining about it. But it's true because it's like you telling your father or any other group of guys hey, I'm hurt at the moment when you're trying to solve a problem isn't helpful. You're just distracting from the goal at hand.
No, it's either do something about it or shut up.
Exactly.
Right? That's really what it's about.
Exactly. So it's I think people have to kind of be re-educated the fact that okay, it's okay to acknowledge that okay, I have this injury, and doing something about it early, right? Because listen, I'm still active. I know how it goes. Something hurts, you keep doing it until it's it stopped hurting. Cool. If it keeps hurting, all right, I'll go see a doctor. Which is obviously I still do it, so I understand that's the normal way to do it. But if you can put something
say that to their husbands too, and say, "Shut up, stop complaining," or they'll make an appointment for them. Just
absolutely. So if people can get in the habit of intervention early, just as a matter of happenstance.
Whoa! You're asking too much. Nobody's proactive. To quote another president, JFK said, "The time to fix the roof is not when it's raining." Right? Nobody's going to do that. But if you want an intervention for something that happened, if you're acutely in pain, try it out. Right?
Well, listen, I have faith because I don't think people are that stupid, right? Jiu-jitsu people pay a lot of dues, right? 150, 200 to train every day, right? They're watching instructionals, they're spending money on instructors, spending money on private, traveling
Right.
to tournaments. Like, why wouldn't they just do something that's so simple,
Yeah.
right? I just think it's like, they don't know that can help them yet, right?
Yeah,
Putting
maybe
needle-
you could quit jiu-jitsu and become an acupuncturist.
Well, or you can do both,
Yeah.
right? It's possible. So, look, fun fact about Teddy Roosevelt that I have for you, and that most people not know, that did you know that, I mean, obviously we have to exclude like warrior kings like Genghis Khan and the like, right? But in the modern times that, until Vladimir Putin came on the scene, that he was the most decorated martial artist as a head of state. He got his brown belt in judo, right back then before the standardization of language, judo, Jiu-Jitsu, you'll see all these different things, they were all interchangeable. But point is, like, he got the first brown belt as an American, and up until Putin, that was the highest degree that any head of state has ever reached. So my question for you, Dr. Biggs, I know you love debating certain things of this fashion. Who do you got in the fight, Teddy Roosevelt or Putin?
I'm always going to take Teddy. Like, I'm rooting for the home team. I love the guy, but you got to give Putin. He's a gold medal jiu-jitsu Olympian.
KGB.
Yes, that I'm sure back then that intelligence and espionage were definitely around, but I'm definitely on Team Teddy. I think he could win just out of his ability.
I mean,
I want him to win.
First of all, we have to break it down. Young Teddy or Big Teddy?
How about
Bull Moose Teddy?
Yeah, Bull Moose
Teddy. Like
hey,
just got shot?
You know what? Who didn't get shot? Putin never got shot.
That's true.
And he got up and delivered a 84-minute speech. So I'm going with Teddy. I'm going with Teddy Roosevelt on that.
That's a fair. And as a card-carrying American,
yeah,
I gotta go with Teddy.
You gotta go with Teddy.
But I'm interested to see anybody else going to take the Russian, right? I know we got some Sambo
I'm
guys
not.
probably watching.
Yeah.
To see, but
Let's put a
so
poll
we're
up,
gonna get a
let's
poll up to see who you got, Teddy or Putin. We'll have that up during the weekend, and you'll see us this weekend at Battle of the Bayshore. Come give Dr. Bays your opinion, ask him questions, ask me questions about if you're interested in acupuncture.
And thank you to Joe for allowing us to sponsor you.
Absolutely. Thank you to Bayshore. Thank you to Move Jiu-Jitsu. Thank you for all of our friends in the community. And guys, we'll see you this Saturday, or we'll see you next week on the podcast. Thank you. Have a good day.